Welcome again to The Leading Force, where we're hosting our own Barbara Walters, as she said, Renee Lobo Mehra. So, Renee, let's move on to the next phase. You already joined the institution ITV from Vishwanath family. What were the earlier years? Because it was not that easy. Today they have a huge studio, they have a setup, they are a big name, they have a big channel. It was the initial stage, and some of your colleagues who are still with you. How was that period, that time?
It was very different, and I think we were the only ones at that time, so everybody knew us, and as you said, the fame came in pretty early on. And it was different. They had huge equipment, then you come back, and it's not non-linear, editing. It's, once you made a mistake, you cannot go back so fast, it's not like cut, paste, quick, it's a very different kind of a thing. Long hours, and you're really giving in your 100%, even much more. You're going the extra mile to make it look worthy of people's attention. So it was very different. Now things are a little easier. There's social media, there's Twitter, Facebook, everything is different. You can get your, not only that, if you want to do any background study on somebody, it's very easy. Go to Wikipedia. Though of course they had this problem today, everything was all blacked out. But very different to get all the stuff of that person. It was not that easy those days.
And when did this idea of doing the famous show of Renee Lobo ITV Live came to you?
I think it started very gradually, just like a segue to what I was doing from the news into this. And I said, why don't I start doing a live show? And
this was which year now?
This was like 94, 95, yes. And I started doing this, and I loved it. It was like no editing, thank God. So that was the first thing.
You're telling me, and I have most of the time people hosts are so scared of live.
I loved it. I loved it, and the calls, and people are calling, so that
immediate reaction.
Immediate reaction right away, and calls are blinking. People are talking. This is what we want. So it was a great interaction that was going with the guests and the viewers, and I thought I loved it. I loved every bit of it. So I started doing like 3 live shows in a week. And every time
I remember you used to be inundated with calls.
Absolutely.
You guys had 5 lines and still they were all blocked.
Absolutely. They were blinking all the time, And it was great. I think we had so many film stars come, and we had a lot of issue-oriented shows, which I really preferred. And it was a great, your adrenaline is flowing and it's all live, so you have to think on your feet. Let's say you don't have the guest is very monosyllabic, you got to work it out, and it was different.
And see, like you said, you had it 3 times a week. You still do 3 times a week?
Well, right now I'm doing 2 times, and I also do shows on Queen's Public Television.
Right, which is this.
Yeah, I do live shows with them too.
How do you go about selecting a guest?
Depending on whether the story is topical, whether people are going to like it, it is a human interest story.
You are the, you select?
Yes, right. 95%. Okay. Sometimes the management will tell you. Exactly.
Or somebody gives an idea.
Exactly.
And how do you go about doing it? Like you said, research at that time was so difficult.
Very difficult.
You can't just go
online.
Well,
now it's easy. You just go, click in the... Those
and
days you really had to work hard for it, and you had to ask people about them if they don't, or you had to sit down with them, or you just have to, play it by the ear and see how it works out. And many times I did play by the ear, because at times I would be just thrown in a guest and say, okay, you're going to do this interview. And I'm like, oh my God, same thing with red carpets. Many times you don't know what, you get a tip sheet later on. So you just have to have extensive knowledge about different topics and issues and personalities and people, and about the world at large, so you are able to wing it.
Now, was there ever any situation in a live show, because it has got pluses and minuses, some disgruntled caller called you and was obnoxious?
There were quite a few times. It happened. It happened one time with Zeenat Aman's show. It happened with one time a commissioner from New York City, and they were not disgruntled. It was just ridiculously some obnoxious caller. It was a ridiculous answer, and we don't have a tape delay,
right?
So it's going the way it is. And I remember it was one time it was very embarrassing, especially for Zeenat Aman. And I had to say, callers, let's, be honest over here. Let's not go into something, private life of hers, and let's not be, talking ugly things.
Yeah, but
and people,
again,
people did respect it.
Okay.
And then another caller would say, I respect you for saying this, and we should be ashamed that this caller is saying.
Any particular guest you loved?
Shabana Azmi. And Shekhar
When you look
Kapoor.
back 20 years?
I still think Shabana, I met her last year. I met her 20 years ago. I thought she was one of the best guests on the show. She talks volumes, and we can just sit for hours and talk. So was Shekhar Kapoor,
Yeah,
no
very
holds
bright guy.
barred. He was really amazing guy. And there have been other Akshay Kumar. I mean, if you're looking from the Bollywood side,
Overall,
yes.
you have this recollection of somebody like Shabana ji comes to your mind
Yes,
immediately that this is the
absolutely.
person
Yes.
you loved hosting her.
Yes.
Now, you see, you got involved with the pioneering media, which is
Yes.
the ITV. You guys did everything which was pioneering, including the live.
Right.
But if you think of today, despite 100 plus channels,
Right.
you have newspapers, you have radio, you have net. Do you think media has really done justice to their position, what they could do or they should have done?
The media has to hold more responsibility. I know now there's always a cutthroat competition, but if you have to be ahead of the curve, then you really have to be ahead of the curve. In that, you have to use all different platforms, use your innovative ideas to have stories that really.
But has
interest-
the media done, the media that has been there, the advantage they
I
had?
think they are trying, but we still have a long way to go because the demographics have changed. There is more of a younger population, and we do not cater to them so often. And I think they are left and they're ignored.
But Bollywood has done extraordinarily well. Music
have.
has done extraordinarily
They
well.
have. They
Cricket
have.
kind of has done well. But your particular space,
Yes.
which is the most important space even today and more so going forward,
right.
has media really done enough?
I think media can still do a lot more, absolutely a lot more. And I think like what your channel is doing, and I think I commend you because I don't know if your viewers know that, engineer by profession, passion being theater, and now the CEO of this, channel. And I think what you're doing, and we were talking about it just a few, days ago or hours ago, that you are catering to different demographics,
Yeah.
which I think is the key to success for any media, because you cannot ignore a certain segment of society. You have to have your programs for seniors, for young generation, for kids, so that they all feel it's inclusive. And many times media either will cater to one generation or the other, the immigrant generation,
They
not
normally
the first
go
or
at
second
the
generation.
lowest denominator, or they're looking at the lowest hanging fruit and to cater to their taste. They don't create. I believe, and I'm asking you,
Right.
you are a pro,
Yes.
television can create audience.
Absolutely.
Television can create a direction.
It's not for the lowest common denominator either.
But so far, it seems to be, if this works, keep on going in this direction. If that
you
works,
you have to be innovative. You have to go along with the trends, and if we can't, then we are left behind. And then the media has not taken its responsibility to its fullest extent.
yeah, that was what I was asking
It has
you.
not. It has not, and there's a lot to be done in that direction.
And why is
And
Bollywood?
that's because you see, you want to see, are you more into the business side or are you more in the creative side? And if you can balance the two worlds, then only you can have proper stories with accuracy and good judgment. And that reflects on the media itself. Many times media neglects those kind of stories, neglects those kind of
Did you ever go to your
demographics.
management and say, this is exactly what I want to do, this may take little time, we need to incubate it, grow it,
Yes.
and then it will work finally?
A lot of times they would not listen to you because they're looking at it from the revenue side of it.
Always.
What's in stake, what's the value proposition in terms of dollars. If it's not creating that kind of a ripple effect, then we don't want. But if it's coming from a person who's creative, like for instance like you, then you understand both sides very well. So I think the management should have more creative side of people, not just the business side, so that they can look beyond the revenue side. I know that revenue is very important at this age and time. It's always been important.
Yeah, and you have been involved with TV. You remember these weekend shows were like 2 hours, 1 hour, and
Right,
the revenue
right.
was minimal. But
Yes.
you can see now from 2 hours to 24 hours, from 2 channels to 100 channels,
That's
everybody
right.
is generating revenue.
Right.
So there is a direction, but I just want to pick on you because on this subject, especially the politics, and you are such an educated person. I was with Bill Blasio and
Right.
I was asking him, from your point of view, what do you think, where are we lacking?
Right.
And he said, Sunil, what I feel is that we know China. We don't want to deal with China, but we deal with it.
Right.
And because we know them.
Right.
We want to deal with India,
Right.
but we don't know enough about India.
That's right.
We don't know enough about South Asia. You guys have not done a right job. From
That's
he
the
was
media
asking me, you're
side,
telling
right.
me that as a media, you've not done a good job. Do you agree with him?
Yes and no, because I think the media has a responsibility of
But we haven't done
showing-
enough. He says
Yeah.
the mainstream still is not connecting. They still think
That's
of India
right.
as Bollywood, songs,
Exactly.
dance, and music.
Because we are preaching to the choir. We are only preaching to our own people.
Correct.
We're not going beyond to the mainstream American and saying this is what we are. I mean, there are organizations like SAJA, South Asian Journalists Association, but still, we have a long way to go to say this is what India is all about, this is what Indian Americans or this is what South Asians are all about. And we don't do this in the right way, in a strong way, and in a more convincing manner. We need more conviction and more strength in what we are and where we're going and what direction for the mainstream Americans to understand us better.
Now, when you look at TV today, last at least 6-7 years, you have faces now coming on television which are South Asian.
Right.
And that will make a difference.
Right.
How about Rene Lobo Mehra on the mainstream television?
Absolutely, I thought so. But what I did was, in the last few years, I went more into the civic side, more into the political side.
Yeah, we'll come to that.
Yes.
Yeah, but on television side,
Yes.
The growth into the mainstream.
I'm toying with that idea.
All right.
Absolutely. Because I
So
think it's
you-
about time.
Yes. So you think that will make the difference because you have all the experience, you know
Right.
the community, you understand now. You're not at a point where you don't know who's Vijayanti Mala.
Right.
You know all of the malas.
That's right.
Whether it is in every field actually, and you know the mainstream. But we'll come back to the subject you just touched after a short break. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay there.